This is a message from your guides reading for the child. All right, so I have 3 group crystals here, the same ones I've been using. These 2 I've been using for a while now, and one is dropping. So my zoisite and my sodalite, which as usual I'm not going to go over since I have, okay, and then I have my green fluorite here, which I've also used a few times now. And then I have pulled for your reading specifically my Angel Aura quartz and my quartz crystal. So I'm going to use this one, the clear quartz, to surround us in some protective space. So right away, this energy of food, this idea of food, which they keep bringing up in your readings lately, and the idea almost of like enlightenment through fasting and things like this. But I don't really feel like they have more to say on that. So maybe I'm just, maybe just because I'm surrounding you in the protective space and that's kind of present on your guides' minds, and also it's also what you're probably currently doing, or at least thinking about doing. But I feel like you've already been doing some of it though. So I feel like that's just, it's just kind of there, and it's relevant, but they don't really have a lot to say on it, I don't think, other than things that they've already said. But I feel like you're doing a good job with it. And it's very relevant to them, and I feel like the way that you are doing it, I feel like it feels like a really positive thing, however it is that you're doing it. They don't really have a lot to comment on it other than that, other than mentioning it and that it's going well. Okay, that is random. They want to talk about why they gave you the name The Child. Which was like years ago. That's just really random that they are bringing that up all of a sudden. Okay. Shoot. So there's an energy of something being new, almost like a baby. You think of a baby, it's something new, it's something brand new. It's someone who's unique and different, but at the same time, you haven't really seen their personality completely start to show through yet. And then as a kid, you're starting to see that emerge, but it's still more their unique self. Sure, there are some programmings that are already there, and even when you come out and you're a baby, it's not like you're a breatharian or something. It's not like you just have like no programmings, or you just have a like completely clean slate when you come here. You have a lot of programmings, obviously, to start with, because that's part of the challenge here. But at the same time, you're coming through without knowing what a lot of the different programmings are. So you have a lot of the same physical programmings, like I have to eat, I have to drink, I have to sleep, you know, all these different human challenges that we go through in that way. When it comes to our physical body, and as a baby, it's like things are just happening to you. Things are just happening to your physical body. It's not like you feel like you have a way to break through that, or like that would even occur to you. It wouldn't, because you're a baby and it's just happening to you naturally, because those are what the programmings are when you're born, and you have them there so strongly because they're generational, and they're like extremely old generational. But you still don't have all of the shoulds in a sense. You have these kind of physical body need programmings, and you have some of the other programmings too in there. Then they're saying you have like some gender programmings, you have like race programmings and things like this. You can already as a kid, you can, like as a baby, I mean, you can recognize this person is a different skin color, or this person is female, or this person is male. But at the same time, they haven't really solidified in a sense. They haven't like grabbed onto you where you notice this vast difference because of them, or you come to conclusions about them, whether it's like prejudice conclusions or sexist conclusions, or even more neutrally based, which is fine. But you don't notice differences in the same way. You also don't notice shoulds in the same way. You don't think about have to, except for things like eating, drinking, things like that. Again, physical based needs, but not when it comes to your personality, or when it comes to like emotional or mental shoulds and beliefs. You don't really register traumas as much until you get to a certain age, they're saying as well. Not that something can't be traumatic, but at the same time, you can get over it more quickly. You're not going to register it as much, or see it so much as inherently bad, because again, you don't have these shoulds and shouldn'ts. You can register, I'm not feeling well, or I don't like something, or I do like something, or I do feel well, or I feel good about this thing, or I like this person, or I feel good with this person, or I don't feel so good with that person. But at the same time, you don't hold on to vibrations because of the way that your brain works, and how it's still developing. And they're saying, then like as a kid, even when it comes to your chakras, as a baby, as a kid, well, as a baby, things are still kind of formulating, but they're saying that as a kid, your crown chakra, for instance, is wide open, and it's a lot bigger. It uses more of its capacity, so it's more expanded, and it needs more of itself. It needs more room to grow and expand. Kind of almost more room to play with, in a sense, as the way that they're kind of putting it. But once you get to a certain age, then your crown chakra starts to kind of close off. They're saying this is because of things like shoulds, or even like, I don't believe in psychic abilities. So different beliefs muddle what you're able to perceive, how you're able to perceive it, how you're able to perceive the world around you, what can come through, what can't come through, what can be digested, and in what way, what can't, what's just going to be thrown up or spit back out, and what's going to make sense to you and why, and how it's going to make sense, and how the world works and how it operates, in a sense, through your eyes. Or even if you see the glass half empty, or you see the glass half full, or maybe you just see it as completely full, or you always see it as completely empty. Even, they're saying, even those two things can exist, or there are almost like you know, varying degrees to which a person can see a cup as more full or more empty, even if it's not completely one or the other. Still, they're saying like saying half full or half empty is almost like limited English language to them. There are varying degrees. So almost like you can't say all of these people see it as half full, all of these people see it as half empty, because there are still varying degrees of that. And there's still varying degrees of open and closed. So some adults are more open. Some adults are more open than some children are, or maybe even than all children are. And then vice versa. Then you have some children who are very closed. They're saying that it doesn't usually happen that way, but sometimes it does. And also even depending on the past lives that the person had, and then just how they're adjusting in this lifetime. And what they're maybe even choosing to incorporate or not incorporate based on contracts before they even got here. And they're saying that some people are not really meant to develop psychically in their current lifetime. They're actually not meant to. They're meant to look at something else. Maybe they're meant to look at mathematics or something. Maybe they're meant to be a genius in that way. Or maybe they're meant to discover something, or some law of physics or something. Maybe they're meant to be a doctor, or maybe they're meant to be, you know, a parent. So they're even saying, so even if somebody is closed off to something, maybe it wouldn't really serve them anyway, necessarily, to be open to that, because they just don't need it anyway for their path. It doesn't mean that they have to be closed to it. So definitely being more closed to the wrong things anyway can be a detriment, but at the same time, sometimes it's still more neutral for a person's path. However they view something, they're not going to use it anyway, no matter what. Okay, they're saying that the reason that they're saying all this stuff has to do with the individual, and every individual is unique and different. You can't really classify all children as this or that, but in general they see children in a certain way when it comes to openness, and allowing beliefs to formulate. Okay, that's why, like, if you have Christian parents, maybe they're like really, like, you know, Bible thumpers or something like that, like my parents were, then the child is most likely going to be very Christian as they're growing up, and probably into their adulthood as well, because children can soak things up more. But the openness, that's what they like. The psychic ability, that's what they like. The ability to receive, that's what they like. That's what they're kind of aiming for with this name. So realizing who is yourself, and what does she actually believe, and what has she actually incorporated that serves her, and she is obviously only going to incorporate things that actually serve her and really resonate with her. And then what are the things that you have adopted that aren't from yourself or don't resonate from with yourself, and closing off to those things. Even if they are like in yourself, even if they're entrenched there, that you know that they are programmings. Closing off to those things, closing off to those habits, to those bad habits, whether it has to do with food or it has to do with what you speak about or what you think about or emotions that you have or like thoughts that you go into or things that you are triggered by or upset by. And learning to let things go. That's another thing that children are typically better at. Again, you can have some exceptions, but generally, so children are better at that. They don't hold on to as much. They're willing to let things go more. But that's also the stage where beliefs are really grabbing on and taking hold, is when you are a kid. That's when beliefs really start to formulate at the same time. So you don't want to be open to the wrong things. And children can't really help that. They just kind of do what their parents say and suggest. They believe what they're taught. And then coming into adulthood, they generally still have the majority of those beliefs that they were taught when they were a child. So really, your parents' beliefs tend to be the beliefs that you have. And they're saying that this is why through so many of your readings up to a certain point for quite a while, they kept talking about your parents, your parents, your parents, and going back and looking at what your parents were teaching you and things like that. Okay, now they also want to talk about a question that you had, which has to do with the council, right? Okay, and why is the council working with you? Like my council, why is the Council for the Assistance to Earth working with you? Or why does it seem like we have some of the same guides? Or why do council members show up sometimes during your readings? And specifically Talia, I'm pretty sure, has come through during some of your readings because they're kind of reminding me of Talia. But that makes sense because you've had some Pleiadian lifetimes. Or wait a minute, wasn't your origin Pleiadian? So that kind of makes sense that she would come through. There's something about Arcturus too. I've never even spoken to an Arcturian council member. But obviously I'm sure there are some because it's a really big council. But it's just 7 who talk to me personally. There's some like Arcturian council member with you. So this is a master guide. He's definitely male. I feel like he's stepping in more now because of things that you're currently doing. So you've always had him there, but that's what master guides typically do. You'll get to a certain stage and then all of a sudden they'll come in more and they'll start working with you with different things. A lot of times it tends to be spiritual. It's about your spiritual development, but not always. Kind of half and half. It's like half the time spiritual development and the rest of the time like personal development, or sometimes the two kind of go hand in hand. Sometimes it can even be psychic development a little bit, but that always, pretty much always is kind of paired with another guide. Because a lot of people have a guide who helps them with psychic things, or at least that could be because of the type of readings that I give, and so I run into people having that type of guide a lot. I'm not really sure. Like, okay, Right, because they're saying, for instance, like before, they were saying maybe someone is just not even meant to, maybe they've contracted to do a certain thing, and that's just not in their contract really at all. They don't need to develop psychically for that lifetime, whatever it is that they're learning. Why the heck would they have that specific type of guide? They probably wouldn't. So again, maybe most people have that, or maybe just the majority of the people that I read, since they are really open to that and feeling usually to develop that. So again, just this idea of everybody being an individual. Okay, so from what he's saying, it's pretty much typical, the connection that you have to the council. You have a connection to the council because you are a star seed, which really all star seeds do. They even say that in one of their channelings. They talk about how all star seeds have a guide from this council. Whether the whether the guide, or I should more say the person, works with that guide closely or not, or whether they're to a stage yet where that guide is really able to work with them closely or feels to yet, because it does tend to typically be a master guide. So you have that connection there. And then the reason that the council would come through even a bit more so has to do with a couple of things. One, it has to do with the amount of readings that you've gotten from me again and again and again. Okay, that's another thing that they're bringing up. They're also, so this is a third thing actually, because they're also mentioning that it also has to do with how many times you've called on help, and wanted to change and look at yourself and all these things. So also the fact that you've called on help through like various means. So not always calling on really specific help. Sometimes you were just kind of more open to like beings that are positive kind of helping you. So I don't know if that's subconscious or totally conscious, but it definitely feels like there was an opening there based off things that you were saying and thinking and wanting help with. So that's part of it. And then just even more so because, okay, obviously there are other people who have gotten like loads and loads of readings with me who are also star seeds, and the council doesn't necessarily come through during their readings, which can be for different reasons. So maybe there's some reason that you need to observe it, but it also has to do with the fact that you're constantly trying to self-observe. You're constantly looking at yourself and your own development, and you want to move through thought forms, and they are typically attracted to people like that. People who want to develop when it comes to like self-development and also spiritual development. I would say especially self-development in some ways. Spiritual as well, but not necessarily like psychic development. Someone can be really attracted to developing psychically and spiritually in that way, or even raising their vibration or something through maybe meditation or different practices like that. But they're not necessarily really focused on self like improvement and observing thought forms and moving through the beliefs that they have, spiritual development in that type of way. So that kind of really feminine aspect, going within and looking at your full self and changing and things like that. Okay, so that's basically why the council kind of works with you, in the sense that they come in during some of your readings sometimes, and they're probably around you sometimes as well, to help you with different things. And then you also have this guide, which that's actually pretty common. That's very common. That's typical for a star seed to have. So this guide is coming in now again because of what you are presently doing. I don't feel like they were going to answer that question because I'm pretty sure that you asked that question a while ago. I don't think that they were really going to answer it until this guide was ready to come through. So I feel like some of your questions are kind of old, and I feel like they're just not really ready to answer them quite yet. So sometimes it's like there's a right time. His name starts with an A. Okay, that took me a little while to get, as you can see. So I'm gonna have to send you the kind of spelling. Of course, this is in English. I'm gonna have to send you the spelling of how this name goes. I don't know why that took so long to come through. It is kind of weird. I think I'm gonna have to write it down pretty quickly after this reading so that I remember it. It sounds something like, I don't know exactly how to say it, like Alendarov or Alendarov, something like this. It looks like Alendurov. So that took me a little while. I kept getting the ALEN part over and over. I don't know why, it was the ending that took a minute to come in. Okay, so that is the end of this reading. Thank you very much for another one, and I will see you again really soon. Namaste.